Next thing I want to take a look at is pruning, because in the spring, particularly when we get nice sunny days, there's a real temptation to look at the garden and think, I'll go out there, tidy it up, prune everything, get everywhere cleared up, which could lead to a very tidy garden but not a lot of flowers, because the important thing is to know what you're pruning. It's vital that shrubs which are going to flower in the spring are not pruned now. So anything that you're expecting to flower before June, do not prune. These are shrubs which flower on what's called old wood, which basically means the branches which are already there, and on those branches are embryo buds. So if you prune now, you will prune out the flowers. So things like Spiraea, Philadelphus, a lot of the common lovely spring flowering shrubs, leave them alone for now. If you're not sure, wait until it flowers and then make a decision. And everything that flowers early in the spring, you prune after flowering. Summer flowering shrubs such as buddleia and hydrangea, you can prune now, you can cut back corners, because they have several months to come into flower and to develop. But the spring flowering shrubs, leave them alone, don't prune them till after they've flowered. The other thing to be doing in the garden and the greenhouse this time of year is seeding. This year with so many people at home because of the coronavirus, gardening is a source of solace for people. Growing seeds, particularly vegetables, very time consuming, gives us something to do during these days at home. It's important for new gardeners to be able to distinguish between what they should seed and when. And that's the same really in some ways as bedding plants, because some vegetables are hardy and some vegetables are tender. And if you go on the website and look at what to do in April in the garden, there's quite a lot of information there about what you can sow outside now because it's hardy, such as broad beans. These are broad beans that are ready for planting out. These were in fact germinated in the greenhouse, but I've just sown some directly into the soil as well. Remember, everything you sow together will flower and fruit together. So to avoid a glut, successional sowing or planting, and fortnightly is a good way to do it, because it's kind of easy to remember, I sowed last weekend, so I don't sow this weekend, I sow the next week. So some vegetables are hardy, so you can have onions out. I'm just looking at my vegetable plot, remembering what I've got out there. Onions, garlic, parsley, lettuces are surprisingly hardy. Obviously if there's a frost, I'll probably throw something over them to protect them. They're hardy, they will take the cold, but there's no reason to expose them to really low temperatures if we get a proper frost. But they're happy and will continue growing in the garden, even though some days are quite chilly. Then there is a whole selection of vegetables which are tender, and into this category we put tomatoes, squashes, cucumbers, courgettes, runner beans, French beans. All need to go out only when the risk of frost has passed. Now you can germinate them earlier in the greenhouse and conservatory or on a windowsill. I'm just going to show you, if you're new to gardening and you don't have either the time, money or resource, or because the garden centres are closed, ability to buy propagators, you can make a small homemade propagator. Now this is ideal if you're just sowing 1 or 2 seeds. Perhaps you're saying, these happen to be an annual, by way of an illustration, because I've sown most of my seeds, but if you were sowing, say, courgettes or cucumbers, you might not want to sow a whole tray through because they produce so many. So it's usual to sow about 3. So when you filled your pot with compost, just press it down gently, because with all seeds you don't want air pockets. If the roots of a new very small plant grow into an area with an air pocket and there's no water, there's no food, real risk that the seedling will die. So just tap it down gently, and then we take the seed. The actual seeding isn't that important, but we'll pop it in and we will water it. But I'm just going to show you how to make this propagator, because it's really handy if you're going to sow tender seeds such as squashes, courgettes, cucumbers, to get them going. Because what you do, use a polythene bag, and this bag actually fits very snugly over the top. And what it does is it produces a really tight seal that enables it to warm up inside. It seals in the moisture, and it makes a perfect little propagator until the seedlings emerge. If the bag's in danger of collapsing, put a piece of bamboo or something in to keep it upright, but when it's as tight as this, it normally stays in position quite well. If you can't get the right size bag to pot, use an elastic band to create a seal, and that will produce an ideal germination environment for 2 or 3 plants. And just to mention, like little seedlings such as these, which are parsley. You can see how small they are. They're really fragile when they're like this, and this is why growing things from seed produces activity, keeps everyone busy, and it's one of the things that we need over these coming weeks of lockdown. The seed has only got a tiny root, and if they dry out, these seeds will die, so they need to be checked every day to make sure that there's sufficient moisture, that they've not dried out, because the seedling is only in the top 1/8 of an inch of soil, and that's the very part of the soil that will dry out. And that's why it's really important to check seedlings and check plants every day to make sure that they're disease-free, how they're getting on, and that they're properly watered. And then as soon as they produce what's called their real leaves, and I don't think I've got anything to hand, but these will produce a parsley shaped leaf, and when they produce those real leaves, that's the time to prick them out, which will involve taking out each little seedling, take it out by its leaves, not its stem, and planting it in another little pot to grow on for a few weeks till it becomes sturdy enough to plant outside.